Hello and welcome back to my kitchen. It's been kind of a wild day. Not bad. I'm just kind of tired, and you know what I need after a day like that? I need pretzel bread. It's delicious right out of the oven. You can't beat it. Anything that you buy in the store is good, pretzel rolls and things, but pretzel bread fresh out of the oven is so good. And it's really not that hard to make. So come on into my kitchen. Let's make some pretzel bread. Okay, here we are. I'm here with my trusty stand mixer, and in the bowl of that, I have put water, some warm water, brown sugar, and yeast, and you can see that it's nice and foamy, and that's what you want to see. Just let it sit for a few minutes, and it'll get nice and foamy like that if your yeast is good, which mine is. And I will post the link to this recipe with this video, so that if you want to follow this and get the exact measurements, you can. This is an awesome pretzel bread recipe. I think it's pretty foolproof. I've never made it and had it turn out bad. It's delicious. And also, if you're intimidated by working with yeast, like I know that some people are, they're just kind of like not really familiar with it, I think this is a pretty good recipe to start with because it's pretty easy. It doesn't have a lot of ingredients. It doesn't have a ton of steps. And I think it's like kind of hard to mess up. It's going to probably be delicious no matter what you do. Okay, so I've got that in there. Now what I've got is I've got my dough hook on my stand mixer, and I have melted some butter in the microwave and added a few tablespoons of milk. And what I had in my fridge was 1% milk, so that's what I'm using, but probably just any milk that you have will work. I'm gonna pour that in there and just give it a little bit of a whirl with my stand mixer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just let it go for a little bit, just so it's mixed a little bit. And then what we are going to do is step out here for a little bit. I have measured out my flour and I have some salt, and that's all we need. And it's, like I said, a super simple recipe. Okay, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put this flour all in there. I've washed my hands, so I'm just gonna use those to kind of gently scoop it in there. Try not to make a mess. I'm not usually very successful with that. Seems like whenever I'm using a lot of flour, I can't keep it from going everywhere. Should be wearing an apron, but what are you gonna do? All right, and then I've got a little bit of salt. You can't see this, but I just spilled part of my salt on the counter. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna measure it out again. Just gonna do a little more, throw it in there. Okay, so we're not aiming for perfection here. We're aiming for delicious pretzel bread, and that doesn't call for it to be perfect. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to turn on my stand mixer, just give this a little bit of a whirl until it's mixed. You don't need to mix this for a long, long time. In fact, you don't want to. You kind of want to have just like a nice sticky dough that's well incorporated but not over mixed. So I'll see you in a few minutes. I'm back and I have my dough, and it should look like this. You should be able to get it to form into a ball, but you don't want it to be super duper firm, kind of just a little sticky. And I put it in a bowl that I coated with some olive oil, kind of turned it around, and I'm gonna let this rise in a warm place with a towel over it for about an hour, and then we're gonna do the last step before we bake it, and that is where the magic happens that makes this have that delicious pretzel texture and that delicious pretzel outside kind of crunchy coating. It's gonna be awesome. And before I do that, I wanna show you what I meant when I said I cannot not make a mess. Look at that. That was just me dumping flour into my stand mixer. I'm a mess. But I do want to note that I had to add a little more flour to this. It just kind of depends. Sometimes you'll get the perfect consistency. Don't add it a bunch at a time. Just add like a tablespoon at a time until it starts to sort of pull away from the bowl and make kind of a ball of dough. And also, if you don't have a stand mixer, that is okay. You don't need it. You just need some elbow grease. You can knead it on your countertop. No big deal. All right, so we're gonna let this sit for an hour. I'm gonna go do a few things, and then I'll be back to show you how we make the magic happen. Okay, here we are. This has been rising for an hour, and look how beautiful it is. It's all puffy. It has risen. So what I'm gonna do is, again, my hands are clean. Okay, I'm gonna press this down. Press down my ball of dough, and I'm gonna divide it into 2 equal parts. You don't have to be super precise, just kind of eyeball it. So I got 2 nice little pieces of dough, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make these into 2 basically kind of nice smooth balls of dough. And the way I like to do that is just kind of tuck the sides under. Can you see how I'm doing that? Just kind of tucking them under. Keep tucking, tucking, tucking until you have this like nice round ball of dough. Just keep tucking the sides under. And then I like to lay it on the counter and just kind of give it a little turn with my hand. Look at that. That's a pretty little ball of dough. I'm gonna put it, I have just a sheet pan over here, and then I'm gonna do the same thing with this one. So this actually makes 2 like round loaves of pretzel bread, and they are going to be so beautiful. You're not even gonna believe it. It's just like such a satisfying baking project, and the best thing is that you probably have all the things that you need at home to make this. So I think I'm about done shaping this one. They're not exactly the same size, but they're close enough. Obviously you want them to be pretty close in size. So these are pretty close. They're not quite perfect, but they're pretty close. Otherwise they won't bake evenly. Okay, so I've got them shaped, and now I'm gonna show you what makes the magic. Okay, here we go. I have here on my stove a pot of boiling water with some baking soda in it, and that is what is going to change this kind of plain loaf of bread into delicious pretzel bread. It's so good. So you're gonna boil this water. I'm sorry, it's a little loud. I have my fan on just to help with some of the steam. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take 1 loaf at a time, and this is just right after I shape them. You don't have to let them rise at all. And you are going to carefully put this into the boiling water, okay? Like I said, carefully is the key. You don't want to burn yourself. So I just kind of plop it in. I give it a little movement so it doesn't get stuck on the bottom. You're going to let it boil for a little bit on one side, like a minute, and then flip it, put it on the pan. And it gives us this beautiful, like brown, chewy crust on the outside. I'm just kind of moving it around so it doesn't end up like getting stuck to the side of my pan or something. And that's pretty much it. You take it out. I cut like little slits in the top of it. Makes it look pretty. Put on a little bit of this coarse salt and then put it in the oven. I have my oven preheating at 400 degrees and they bake for like 22-ish minutes. All right, now I'm gonna give this a flip. I use this, it's what I have. It's probably not the best tool. Maybe you have something better, but I'm just gonna kind of like carefully give this a flip, and you can see that that's like cooked it a little bit on the outside. It's gonna give it that nice chewy crust. I'm sure it has something to do with science or chemistry. I don't know. All I know is that it's delicious. So we're gonna bake these, and these are great. I like to make these a lot during Lent because we have a lot of just like really simple meatless meals, like soups or things like that. And just to have like a simple like little piece of pretzel bread with it is really good. And also it's just, you know, it's just sometimes after you've had a long day, you just need to bake something, at least for me. That is what helps. All right, so I think this is about done. Again, I'm gonna use this guy to get it out. It's not ideal, but it works pretty well actually. And I'm just gonna let some of that water drip off, and I have a baking sheet already here. This is a non-stick pan, but I did put a little bit of oil on it just for safety. And I'm just gonna slide it right out onto there. Leave that there, okay? And I'm gonna do my second one. And you're gonna notice a lot of bubbles with this baking soda water. It's okay, just be careful. All right, I'm gonna put it in. Drop it from up high. You're gonna get some splashing, some burns. So be cautious. Kids that are watching this is something to do with your parents, okay, not by yourself. Because I'm an adult and even I sometimes accidentally burn myself with this, so you don't want to mess around with boiling water, okay? Speaking of kids, I know that some of my students have discovered these videos, which I am A-okay with because I pretty much have a policy of never putting anything on the internet that I wouldn't want anyone in my life to read. My parents, my pastor, or my students. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that we're friends on social media or anything like that, but I do know that some of them have discovered my cooking videos, so if that's you out there, hi. And tell me at school what you think I should make next. And tell me if you made pretzel bread with your parents for Lent this year, because it's delicious. All right, I think it's time for a flip. So we're just gonna kind of scoop it up and really carefully. This one's not being as cooperative. We're gonna flip it over. There we go. And you see, it's the baking soda is making these bubbles. I'm gonna actually turn my burner down a little bit. It's not gonna bubble over, I don't think, but I don't wanna speak too soon. See, sometimes I just pick it up and that just sort of settles it down a little bit. I turned my burner down because this is already boiling really good. So yeah, I discovered this a few years ago. Just looking for something different to bake, and I like to bake bread, and my husband and I love this. In fact, I think I'm gonna try to talk him into tasting it with me later. He's gonna be excited, I think, when he gets off work and sees that I made pretzel bread. It's so delicious. All right, I didn't set a timer. Sometimes I do to like see how long I've kept it in the water, but I just kind of try to think about like about a minute and a half on each side. All right, I'm gonna turn my boiling water off. Let this drip, drip, drip a little bit. Okay, so we have got 2 beautiful loaves of pretzel bread. Let me show you. They're pretty before they even go into the oven. Look at those. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a knife here and I'm just gonna cut like a little cross in the top. I'm gonna show you how I do this. I'm just gonna go like this and like this. Okay. Doesn't look like much now, but it's gonna like split in the oven and make that kind of pretty dark brown crust, and then the white inside, and you'll have that contrast on top. You'll see what I mean when I take it out of the oven. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take a little bit of the salt, and sorry, I'm just meandering around my kitchen. Sometimes you can see me, sometimes you can't. That's okay. This is not a high production value YouTube video. This is just me and you in my kitchen, so. All right, I'm just gonna sprinkle a little on, not a ton. You don't want it to be too salty, right? Unless you like that. I don't love a ton of salt on my pretzels. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I've got my oven set to 400. I'll show you again. Look how pretty they are. I'm gonna put them in the oven 22-ish minutes, and then I'm gonna pull them out. We'll let them cool for a little bit, which is hard to do because they always smell so good. I want to eat them right out of the oven. And then we'll taste them. All right, I'll see you in 22 minutes. The pretzel bread is out of the oven. It looks so good. It smells so good. So I'm gonna bring on the chief taste tester in this house, and we're gonna taste it together and let you know how it is. Okay, here we are, and I've got a special appearance by chief taste tester in Kate's kitchen. It's Joe.
Hello, everybody. Yes.
You ready to taste the pretzel bread?
I'm ready.
Okay, ready? Yeah, it's good.
That's excellent.
I'm only eating 1 bite on camera, but I will be eating many more bites. It's pretty good, right? It's really good if you like dip it in something or if you eat it with soup, but honestly, it's really good to just eat. And so there you have it, pretzel bread, and it's got this beautiful like crunchy outside, but it kind of breaks open when you slit the top, so it's really pretty when you take it out of the oven, and it makes your house smell pretty good, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he already finished the piece that I cut off for him. So, all right, that's pretzel bread, friends. Give it a try. It's so good. Like I said, I get this off of a cooking blog. I think it's called Joy Food Sunshine, so I'll put the link. So if you want to try it, give it a try. Let me know what you think of it. All right, bye, friends. Oh, you rascal. Bye.
See you later.